Welcome to the Peaceful Parenting Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Rosensweet, mom of 3 young people, peaceful parenting coach, and your cheerleader and guide on all things parenting. Each week, we'll cover the tools, strategies, and support you need to end the yelling and power struggles and encourage your kids to listen and cooperate so that you can enjoy your family time. I'm happy to say we have a great relationship with our 3 kids. The teen years have been easy and joyful, not because we're special unicorns, but because my kids were raised with peaceful parenting. I've also helped so many parents just like you stop struggling and enjoy their kids again. I'm excited to be here with you today and bring you the insight and information you need to make your parenting journey a little more peaceful. Let's dive into this week's conversation. Hey there, welcome back to another episode of the Peaceful Parenting Podcast. Today's episode is a coaching call with Mark and Kanae. Mark and Kanae are parents of 2 little boys who are 3 and 5, and this is a little bit of a different call because we are talking more about their relationship with each other and their co-parenting together than we were specifically talking about parenting. I mean, we were talking about parenting as partners, and I think that's something that comes up a lot for a lot of you, my listeners. So I think you'll find it interesting, and be sure to stick around to the end where we hear how the suggestions that I made and also, honestly, the ahas that they had, how that played out over I think it was about 6 weeks in between when we first talked and then when we spoke again. In the course of this coaching call, you might hear Mark, well, I know you will. You will hear Mark because he mentioned it. You'll hear Mark talking about the parenting course, which is how I first got to know him. He took my parenting course last year, my Transform Your Family Life online course. And as part of the course, we have office hours every week, which is sort of a group coaching call where you get to ask me questions. It's every week for 12 weeks. So I got to know Mark pretty well over the course of the Transform Your Family Life online course back in 2022. And it really transformed his parenting. And because he actually was one of my star students, I invited him to come on because on the podcast, because I just loved all the transformations and the growth that he has made. And he ended up introducing Kanae to the course materials, and she loved it as well. Anyhow, long story, way to say that the course is open again for enrollment today, February 22nd, and the doors close on February 28th in the evening. The course starts on Wednesday, March 1st. If you are listening to this after that, you can always get on the wait list to be notified the next time I'm offering the course. The Transform Your Family Life course, it's a 10-module course. We do it over 12 weeks so that you've got a little bit of implementation time. And when you look around and it feels like no one else is working as hard as you are, it's probably because you have kids who are more or extra. And peaceful parenting is really even more important when you do have those kids who are more extra. You've probably heard me a million times on this podcast talking about that. And really, if you're getting tired of the meltdowns, whether it's your meltdowns or theirs, or the back talk or rudeness, getting tired of the power struggles and sibling fights, if you're having any tension with your partner, this is a fantastic way to get on the same page doing this course together. And, if you're just really looking to find a way to feel more connected and stop the, constant stress and battles, or even occasional stress and battles, I guess, you might want to check out this course. So you can go to sararosensweet.com/parenting course to check it out. Again, as I said, the doors will close on February 28th and the course starts on March 1st. I won't be offering this course again until the fall, probably October or November. And when I do offer it again, the price will be going up. It's been the same for the past couple of years. So check out the course, sararosensweet.com/parenting course. And again, if you're listening to this after March 1st, you can get yourself on the wait list to be notified the next time I offer it in the fall of 2023. And don't forget to stick around to the end because, gosh, they made some really, really big strides in how they are together. And also you'll hear Mark talk about sort of some things that we discovered during the coaching call that have really affected his parenting even more. Okay, let's dive in to meet Mark and Kanae. Hi, Mark. Hi, Kanae. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Sarah. Hi, how are you?
Good. So I just to let everyone know, I have known you for a while because you took my Transform Your Family Life course last year in February. So I have known you in that context, and then now you're in the membership also. So just to let everyone know, we've never done coaching together, just ourselves. So this is a little bit new, even though I have known you. And Mark, you're the one that originally did the course. And why don't you actually introduce yourselves? And then I have a question for you, actually, that I've been wondering for a long time.
Sure. Thanks, Sarah. So I'm Mark. I'm the proud father of two sons, age 5 and 3. Hopefully they're sleeping right now. And this is my lovely wife, Kanae.
Hi, I'm Kanae.
And yeah, we live in Japan, in Tokyo, and we had transplants from New York.
And whenever you have joined the office hours, it's always the middle of the night for you because you work in the night, right?
Correct, yes.
That must bring its own set of challenges. Okay, my question for you is how did you find peaceful parenting? Because I know that it was a big transformation for you because you've shared that a lot, what a big transformation it was. So how did you find peaceful parenting and how did you find the course? Do you remember?
Yeah, I came across you through a web search, and I went through a couple of different parenting websites and landed on your website, did some reading, some research, found it really interesting. Really didn't know much about peaceful parenting, and so it was a real eye opener for me. As I mentioned to you, I have come from an authoritarian parenting background, and so all of the material that I kind of learned through you was really eye opening and beneficial and really helped me and turned me into a much better parent than I was before that. I guess I kind of knew intuitively that I needed some help. That's why I started to reach out and I just love my children so much. And I want to do the best for them, and I felt like I could have did I could have done better. And glad I found you because that really kind of helped me and my family out.
Yeah. Okay. So you started. I mean, it's pretty early in the journey, which is fantastic. And a lot of people wait a lot longer before they realize that they need to make some shifts. So you're really fortunate that you did find this change early in your journey. And what made you, though? I'm just curious. Like, what made you shift so far away from how you were brought up when you knew that you wanted to do something? Like, how did you know you wanted to do something different? Because some people just kind of double down on when they're struggling. They double down on how they were raised.
Yeah, so I went through some trials and tribulations as a young man, and I have done some self work for myself, and been always a curious person. I'm always learning new things. I try to always learn new things, and I just knew that there are different perspectives out there, and I just knew that there was something that I wasn't getting, and so that put me on my search. Once really kind of like we settled into, like I mentioned, we moved to Tokyo from New York. Once we settled in here and got set up, I really wanted to kind of focus on that and really make the best of it because I saw that my methods weren't the best and looking for alternatives.
Yeah, it just didn't feel good to you what you knew so far. It sounds like.
Yeah, I can just look at my children's faces. Really, my oldest, my youngest is. We don't have many issues with my youngest one. He's just kind of like acting his age, and really a lot more mellow as compared to my oldest one. So looking at his face when we would try to discipline, I just know it wasn't working. It wasn't right.
Yeah, yeah. And can I what about your journey when Mark was going on his journey? And I do want to hear what you want coaching on also. And I'm a curious person. I think that's why I got into this line of work.
Yeah, just really quick before Kanai answers, and I think I told you this, but initially when I brought this up to Kanai that I found something and I registered for it, she didn't seem very interested in it. But she did dive into some of your work and you won her over, not me, you did. Your content and you the person. So I'm really happy that she warmed up to the program and really happy we did it together.
Yeah, I'm too.
First, when Mark told me to listen to this all these courses, I just feel like, Mark is always up to something new and change and improvements. And everyday life, I'm like very busy mom, and I'm doing the best I can already. And I don't want to add more stuff for me to do things. That's what's the reason I was kind of resistant. Like I'm doing everything I can, and why would I need to do more? And I don't have time, and I have more like I have things to do more than this course. But like when I start listening to your courses, basically it really easy for me to kind of I mean, to relate to it. Like it's not so far from the way I brought up, and also I felt some of the things like intuitively. Like I didn't like the consequences. I didn't like some of the methods that kind of Mark would be leading, but I couldn't really counter argue that's wrong and I want different way. So it kind of gave me my more logical kind of explanation why I don't think it's good idea to give consequences, how to react when kids did this, like with empathies and all the stuff. Like it kind of like intuitively I knew more, but like I couldn't really counter argue to Mark. That so it gave me more, I mean, kind of explanation to how I think it's actually right. So that's why I kind of got hooked into, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So it was kind of like something you felt, but then there was the logic that you finally had, like, the logic to back it up.
Yes.
Yeah, nice. How can I support you 2 today?
What I want to focus on today is that I finish all the courses. I'm still following up on some when I have some feel like a little bit issues with kids. Like I go back to some of the courses and like some topics, and I'm pretty comfortable with being a peaceful parent. I know all the tools when to use, and then also another way, like I know I make a mistake, but I know that I can forgive myself and I can move on to next day. That okay, tomorrow it's gonna be better. Also, I'm aware when I make a mistake I have idea how to do better, next time and stuff. So I'm kind of being comfortable or confident being a kind of peaceful parenting like right now. And I don't really have big issues with kids that I can't really deal with. But when it comes to parenting with a partner, I have challenges. Like I just mentioned it right before, like obviously Mark is like always like to do better for kids. He likes improvements, changes, and he always have ideas and suggestions to me. But I feel like I'm doing everything I can. And when he tells me, okay, we should do this and that, I feel kind of a little bit burdened. Also, kind of really resistant to listen to, because also from the background that we always have arguments, like I feel like I'm always pointing out that I'm the one who has to who has to change. I'm the one who's wrong, and eventually I had to listen to him. That's what I feel. So that's why I'm like it's very difficult for me to listen to his suggestions. And like when we have conflict on the parenting, like I don't know how to, I feel like my voice will never be heard. Like he always get his way, so I don't know how to be on the same page with him.
Can you give me an example?
For example, that let's say this week, from last week, Mark started saying like how harmful it is to use plastic for kids. So he mentioned that he wants to switch from plastic water bottle to just drink as a cup or something. And I was like, yeah, I get that, but I'm trying to use cup to like drink milk or something. But like, occasionally when we go out or like on the bed, like I just still use plastic bottle. But like he just like, it's not good. So I don't want to use it no more. And I feel like I just need to follow it. Like I can't really like from the past, like even try to counter argue like for example, breastfeeding, I want to add formula, but he said no, and then there's no way that I can add formula. So something like that. Or also, like he likes to point out how I did wrong and like, oh, you break the limit for this and that occasion after the long weekend, finally sending the kids out. Like I don't want to hear those kind of improvements, all the stuff. So yeah, it's just that I just want to move on to next day and then like start fresh or something. But like he just like to point out, and we always need to discuss how to do better and all this stuff. And just even like office hours, sometimes like I feel burdened to do so, like because it feels like he want me to do, and then I feel like if I fail, like I also feel like I'm not doing a good job. For like if I fail to his suggestions, I feel like I'm not doing a good job.
Right. So it sounds like a little like, and I know from talking to Mark that Mark, you can be pretty hard on yourself. And it sounds like in some ways that is what Kanai's feeling is extending to her.
Yeah, it's just like he always wants something better, and then he gets frustrated with me. Like, why can't you take it like so easy? Why can't you take it so serious? Like, why can't you think that it's serious thing? Or like
Like like for example, the water bottle.
water bottle. Also in the past, like also like we have like serious kind of very hard sibling rivalry. As a good example is that this weekend Nico, older one, was kind of hitting really hard, younger one, and he think it's very serious. And to me, it's like, yes, it is, but at the same time, empathy and the kindness to the older one to hitting the younger one, it's only way we have to keep doing it. But he doesn't think, he think it's something serious. Something he has to do something different. He gets frustrated with me why I can't take it more serious if something happens.
Mark, was that when you were in the moment and upset about the hitting? Because I know that you know when you're not in the moment, we've talked about how you do believe that empathy is the right thing, even for the person who's hitting.
Yes, and I think I consistently believe that. I don't think I change. It was just that this weekend, Nico hit my youngest one, Gino, really hard. He gave him a knot in the side of his head. It was that hard of a punch. I haven't seen him hit him that hard. With a close fist, winding up, belted him right in the side of the face. And that to me triggered something that I have to take a little bit stronger action than just hugging Nico when he does this and talking to him that we don't hit. And so I am very conscious of my tone and intention, and I definitely tried to focus on that. I can always do a better job on that, but I think I was calm and just said that, listen, we are going to separate you guys, and you guys can't be together. And was reminding Nico an awful lot that we don't want him to hit his brother. And Kanai didn't take it as serious. And I said to Kanai that, listen, if we keep this up, if he hits him in the eye, hits him in the nose, we're going to go to the hospital. And I don't want that to happen. So I want to get ahead of that. And Kanai was like very kind of like nonchalant about it and really didn't see the seriousness that I saw. And so we're looking at two different things, and we're taking away two different things.
Okay. So it sounds like to me, I mean, this is sort of a classic relationship pattern that I see. And it's interesting, we're sort of talking around empathy, but remember that you have to empathize even if you don't agree. And so I think that you two both, so we're going to talk about shame also. So it often, when the person that you love most in the world, your partner, doesn't think that you're, quote, doing it right and tries to correct you, if they're not correcting you with empathy, or at least leading with empathy when you're having a discussion, even if it's not about correcting, and letting you know that they see your point of view, we can get really defensive, right? And then we sort of double down on why our idea is there's, nothing wrong with our idea. Maybe if Kanai didn't feel that you were sort of upset with her, she might have been more willing to say, like, oh, yeah, this is kind of serious, that he hit him so hard. But it may have been that she felt that maybe she felt defensive. I don't know, Kanai, does that resonate at all for you?
I guess like it's just like I do not know why he. I mean, whenever like older one hitting the younger one, Mark doesn't seem have much empathy. Older one, and also it's kind of withdrawal of love from older one. Usually, this time also that Mark was kept telling older one that you can't hit your brother. You had to be separated. Like next morning, as soon as he woke up, that's the first thing like Mark said to the older one and keep telling, you can do this and all the stuff. And I really kind of related, I feel relate to older ones feeling, because whenever we have conflict, I mean argument with Mark, that's how I feel all the time. Like I'm the one who's do things wrong, and I'm the one always have to change, and I'm the one who always have to be told that.
So you really relate to Nico.
So he can't relate to it because I don't know. Like I just that's why I mean he's always frustrated with me. Like why do you have some take? Why do you always take Nico's side? But like I really feel for him because it's kind of I start feeling a little relationship. Nico and Mark, it's also same relationship as Mark and I. I kind of start seeing that.
Yeah. I think you get afraid, Mark. Sorry for cutting you off, but I think you get afraid and that your fear takes over in those situations. Like, what you just said, if this doesn't stop, he's gonna end up in the hospital, right? And whenever you're responding from a place of fear, and whenever any of us are responding from a place of fear, it can come off as really harsh and not we can't be both afraid and empathetic at the same time.
Yeah, I see the logic in that. No, I was just going to say that I find it very interesting, Kanai, that you just articulated the parallels between you and Nico and the dynamics of, when somebody does something wrong and how I kind of react to that and how you kind of like are really feeling his side because you feel like you going through the same thing with me. So that's really interesting. I really, I never heard that before. And I really have
I
to think about
just
that.
really start seeing that like
Yeah.
this weekend, and now that when I think about it, this weekend, the Saturday was younger son's birthday, and Sunday Nico hit Reggie Gina hard. I think he took it very well on Saturday, but like I think he had a really big feeling that's jealous of Gino, and that's why we should have been more kind of careful to his Nico's feeling, but we were not. And we sent to his grandma house. Then we sent Nico to grandma house to get just his alone time with his grandparents, right after. But like we could be a little bit more, considering his feeling a little bit more. And then so after Gina got hit from Nico, like Mark was telling Nico, you can do this, and then just like recently I start seeing the whole time like yeah Mark was telling Nico, and I just really see myself like stuck, like I always feel like I'm stuck in the situation. Mark always come to saying like why would you always deflect what I said, and you always tell me like you're gonna change, or you change your behavior, but you don't. You keep I know that he keep telling me for a long time. And when he was telling Nico that, I was like, I feel like, I know how it is. Like, I've been that way for a very long time, and I don't know how to get out of it. So that's why I feel like, yeah, like I just like start seeing the relationship like kind of in Nico. So like I'm just a little bit worried that affect Nico, that I really want Mark is a great father. I really want Mark to have a really good relationship with Nico. And I see my brother and my cousin, both of them are boy. They don't have good relationship with father. So I just don't want them to end up being like that. So
Yeah. Well, Mark, I think your challenge has always been to be able to hold both of the ideas in your head at once, that somebody can do something wrong and you can have understanding and empathy and compassion for them, because I think that you weren't raised really with that even though, the even though that we always talk about. I'm worthy and lovable even though my wife doesn't agree with me, or my son is hitting, or whatever. He's worthy and lovable even though he just whacked his brother in the head with a closed fist.
Yeah, I agree with you. I definitely have some work to do on that. And I also think this is a really great example. It's a really recent one. It also captures where I am in my evolution in peaceful parenting. And so this is something that didn't happen, before I took peaceful parenting. This is something that didn't happen when I just started peaceful parenting. This is something that has happened in my mature peaceful parenting journey. And so I really honestly think I did have empathy. I didn't shame. I honestly think I didn't yell. What I did do was ride him a little bit and just constantly remind him there's no hitting. Don't hit your brother. And I repeatedly did that.
Okay. So and one thing I've said to you so many times is he already knows that,
Exactly.
right? And I think it's amazing. It's amazing you didn't shame and that you stayed calm and that you did have empathy. It's the fear. It's what I said before. It's the fear talking that, is he ever going to stop doing this? What if he puts his brother in the hospital? It's that you're projecting yourself down the road a couple of years and you're forgetting that he's only just turned, he's not even 5.5 yet, is he?
He's 5.5,
Yeah, yeah.
around
He's
five.
5.5. He's just 5.5. And it was a hard day. It sounds like his brother's birthday the day before. And no matter how many times and how seriously you tell him that we don't hit, you're not going to change the fact that he's still 5.5 and has low impulse control and big feelings. So riding him more isn't going to make him not hit the next time. And I know that's not the heart of the matter. I mean, the heart of the matter is between, you and Kanae and how you work these things out together. But just as a sidebar, I want to remind you that you got into this conflict with Kanae because you forgot that part of peaceful parenting. And it sounds like she didn't forget that part. And maybe if you could be more open with Kanae about your fears, and maybe you have to get in touch with your fears more yourself. Yeah. If you get more in touch with your fears yourself, like, listen, I'm so worried that, privately, you're not going to say this in front of Nico and Gino, but I'm so worried about this hitting. I'm so worried that, he's going to really get hurt. And maybe you wouldn't feel like she was brushing it off if you could come to her with that vulnerability instead of like, we've got to take this seriously or whatever it was that you might have said in the moment.
I guess he kind of said it to me, but like it's just like
I did say what to you?
you said to me that he's really worried that Gino's gonna be end up in the hospital.
Right, and did I say it from a state of...
Calmness, yes, I understand, but like I feel like
So I expressed my vulnerability and my concerns to
yeah,
you. Okay.
yes,
So
but
can I maybe you need to empathize with Mark's concerns a little bit more so he feels heard, so that he doesn't have to keep ramping it up. That's what happens when somebody doesn't feel heard, is they keep getting louder and louder with their concerns.
like the thing is like he would say that like my counter argue is like I understand that you feel that way, but like I do believe that he knows that he cannot do that. Like he can do so hard. I really believe that Nico knows that he can hurt Gino that bad. I really, and then he knows already not to hit so hard. He already knows that. That's why I said I think Nico knows that, so it's not going to happen. When I counter argue that it's not going to happen, and I think Nico knows it, that he just doesn't like the idea, and he gets so. How can you not take it so seriously?
Yeah, I guess it's like...
That's
I mean,
every
if you
yeah.
saw the knot on the side of my son's head, for me, it's really hard not to take this seriously.
I don't think anyone's saying we shouldn't take it seriously. What I want to go back to before is being hard on Nico isn't going to be the thing that's going to make it not happen again.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I was hard on him, but I just said that I
Well,
was...
your own words, you said you wrote him a little bit.
I did write him. I did, and writing him meaning by just constantly telling him that
Yeah,
don't
that
hit your
it was
brother.
like in the night before he goes to bed. As soon as he wakes up, that's the first thing he said. Yeah, he keep bringing it up, and he told me that he's gonna do at least try for 5 days, see what happens. And I just don't agree with it at all. It's just that from my experience, it is another issue that I have experienced. That's like whatever I say, it's not gonna be heard, and Mark's gonna do his way. And from plastic bottle to breastfeeding, or Nico cannot eat the school lunch because school lunch is not good. We have to bring it. Like all these things, I try to counter argue, but it never be heard. And then these days he'll tell me something, I'm like okay, and I just don't say anything. And then because I feel like whatever I say, like it's just not gonna be heard and not gonna be adopted. So I just don't know what kind of need to do to be on the same line.
It's hard when you have, and from Mark's perspective, I can understand it's hard when you have strong feelings about something and you want everybody to come on board with that strong feeling. I mean, that I had to chuckle about the plastic water bottles because my family would laugh their heads off because I really have a thing against plastic. I've gotten a little bit more relaxed over the years. And my opinion is if there's something that is a change, like for example, you don't want the kids to eat the lunch at school or don't want Nick to eat the lunch at school, are you willing to make the lunch or are you asking Kanai to do extra work because you don't want to make the lunch at school
Yeah,
or
she's
have him
bringing
have the
up
lunch at
something
school?
from the past that when we were living in New York, and so
Yeah, but
the
so
Okay.
school
so
life in New York, I really
Well,
wasn't a
I
big
think it's a
fan.
good rule of thumb. Like if something's really important to a parent, are they willing to step up and do the extra work that's required in either direction? And I think that's a good thing to talk about it of like, okay, I don't want the kids to have plastic, so I'm going to be in charge of getting their drinks all the time. Or, yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think of an example that's current. And if you're willing, if the other parent is willing to go the extra mile for something that's important to them, great. And maybe that's a way that you two can decide it. Like, if it's that important to you, Mark, you'll do the extra work involved. And also, there are bigger things that are not as easily solved as water bottles or school lunches. And it's really, really hard to be the parent that is less anxious. And I can relate to Kanai on this. When you are married to somebody who's a little bit more anxious, you can never guarantee that the thing that the person's anxious about is never going to happen. Like, Kanai can't guarantee that Nico's never going to put Gino in the hospital. I think she's right that it's unlikely, and that as Nico gets older and his brain gets more developed, and you two keep working on the sibling rivalry thing, that it's unlikely that he will put Gino in the hospital. But you're right; she can't guarantee that that will never happen. So you two need to find a way to make each other feel understood and heard, because I think that's the biggest problem is, Kanai saying that Mark doesn't feel like Mark hears you, right? Like you don't it seems like you just, because you have such a strong force of will and personality, she doesn't feel heard.
Yeah, I mean, interesting. I mean, the whole fear and anxiety. I don't think I've ever described myself as being fearful or anxious. So I really have to kind of really think about that and really, really reflect on that and really think how much of that really applies to me.
So just let me put this further out there. The way that fear and anxiety often shows up in dads and in men is through wanting to control things. And often they don't recognize that that's coming from, and especially when it's safety. I don't want you to do this thing because of this. It feels like it can be logical and like, of course we would, not want anything bad to happen to our kids, but it doesn't come across as typical anxiety or fear. It just comes across as strong feelings, and of course this is the way we should do things.
Like I said, I'm really going to honestly reflect on this and really give this a big think. But just to go back to Kanai's comments about she doesn't feel like she's heard. Sometimes, if not most of the times, she doesn't say anything. So it's hard not to be heard if we don't say anything. Like if I say something I want to say, I'm usually always open to listening to any type of counter argument. But I don't. You usually close down. You usually retreat. So
kind
I don't
yeah,
hear
I
that.
kind of like kind of get sometimes give
So
up.
I'm sorry, but that also, just really quick, you also have to recognize that when you bring up things about control. Because if I'm not getting anything in return, and I am open to hearing things, how is that being controlling?
Well, maybe this is an old pattern in your relationship that in the past maybe you weren't as open to hearing things, and Kanai had the experience of not being heard and she gave up, and maybe she needs to give you another chance, and you need to promise that you are going to listen. And you two can also remember the strategy of, if you either of you start to feel upset, you say, let's pick this back up again when we're both feeling calm, because nobody ever has solved a problem during a fight ever. And maybe this is like a new page in your relationship where you feel like you can say what you think, and Mark has just told, me and you that he'll listen.
Yeah,
Mm.
but honestly, I don't think that's it. I could be wrong. Can I keep me honest? But I do think I'm always open to listening. I don't like tell her I don't want to hear what you have to say. I would never say it. I'm a
Yeah,
curious person.
yeah,
I
he's
want to
open.
learn.
Yeah,
I want to hear.
But in the past, maybe she felt like it didn't matter what she said because you always wanted your way. And so she stopped telling you what she thought. And so she has to tell you what she thinks.
yeah. It's
I
just like
don't
I
always.
have
Yeah.
one example. We were just talking like before this podcast because he's saying like, oh, Nico, the older one. I think he lies a lot, but like I know like taking something from somebody else. I hope he knows it's wrong. And I said, Nico lies all the time because just to get away from little trouble, but he knows what's right or what's wrong. In like he knows he can take away from he just took a little stickers from a school from somebody else, or we don't know who gave
Where
it
we
to
got
him.
it from? Yeah.
Yeah, but he was just making up stories. I know kind of he just saying that because he think he might get into trouble. So I said, Nico knows that he can take any stuff, and he knows that. And Nico just saying that just he think he get into trouble, and I don't. And he's like, again, the same thing. And he thinks like, oh, I hope he knows, and like if he doesn't know, like it's gonna be really serious. And I think that's the same thing you just said, that he has a fear that he's gonna grow up and like, but like I already told his my opinion how he think what I think, but like he just
Yeah, and we
already has ideas. So like
no, but I heard you, and but
I
we
know, I
did,
know, I know. You
but
have me.
we just
We just
right,
disagree.
right. We just disagree exactly. We
Yeah.
just I heard you. We disagree, and I
And you
honestly do not know if he knows.
and he can
And
in
I
a way
said if he
like,
doesn't know, that's serious.
and he kind of like oh, like I don't know why you think he knows. And it's like I'm like, forget it, like why would I tell my ideas, like you just like really. So that's how I feel all the time when we come, like we just always kind of disagree on that. Like I always kind of believe in kids, and I think he knows, and but he just can't control. But like he just thinks I hope he knows, and then I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Sarah, I'm really gonna reflect on because I'm thinking to myself, why do I think that? And I'm thinking why I think that because I see a pattern. I've recognized a pattern, and I've recognized a pattern over time, and it keeps repeating itself. And so, when you see something like that, it kind of is logical. It makes sense. I have evidence to build on it. So that's where my thinking comes from. But again, I'm also gonna keep what you said in my mind as well. That this is coming from fear and anxiety. Because if my son doesn't know that taking something that doesn't belong to you, you're not supposed to do that. If he
I'd be
doesn't know
shocked if he
that,
didn't know.
yeah, okay, okay.
He, because the fact that he's making up and changing his stories,
I think even Gino knows that you're not supposed to take things that don't belong to you.
like it just really
Okay. So yeah, I mean,
he just really, yeah.
I have to laugh because I seem like I'm incredibly anxious.
Yeah.
I think you are kind of anxious.
I think he just
I
like
think I'm so
already,
relaxed. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
no,
No,
he just
anxious
really
doesn't mean not
wants.
relaxed. It means that your brain is going to like the worst case scenario when something wrong happens with your child. And that's so normal because that's how we were, our brains do tend to see the negative more and just keep ourselves safe, right? Like that's an evolutionary thing. Like if we didn't remember all the bad things, we might do them again and then something bad would happen to us. So it's natural, and in a lot of ways the big work of peaceful parenting is to go against that natural inclination, right? That's why we talk about the choose radical love. Like what would I do in this situation if I weren't afraid? Like that's the big idea, right? When my kid is hitting or I found some stickers in his pocket that don't belong to him, the fear response is I got to ride him, I got to come down on him, make sure that he knows the right thing to do. The love response is, if there is no teaching to be done, which in both of these instances there's not, because Nico knows no hitting, and I believe what Kanae thinks is true is that he also knows not to take things, but it's just too hard to So impulse control again, right? The impulse control and big feelings. So what it comes down to is that we trust that he knows that, and we react from love of like, oh, it was so hard for him to not take those stickers, or to, it's like benefit the doubt. It's like this giant benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I'm hearing you, and just I really am hearing you, I've said it a couple of times. I'm really going to have to reflect on this. And just another thing that complicates this for me is because I give my children a big leash. I let them do a lot of stuff that maybe most parents wouldn't let them do by themselves. And so again, that doesn't express to me anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not across the board in every area. Like, and the reason why you've never thought of it this way before is because it sounds like in a lot of other areas you're not an anxious person. It sounds like it maybe how the boys will turn out is your sore spot, right? How will they turn out is the thing that makes you anxious.
Yeah, yeah, that's the biggest fear for him.
And no one's saying you're not a great dad. Like, I don't think this is a criticism. It's just trying to understand where the reactions come from, and where those moments where you doubt the peaceful parenting approach, even if you don't realize that's what's happening, are coming from fear. Like, what if we should be coming down harder on him when he hits his brother? What if we should be, teaching him more about, property and theft, or he's going to end up like, robbing banks someday or something. I don't know. And I think Kanai naturally doesn't have that. She naturally has more confidence that they're going to turn out okay. And that's where you two get into this conflict.
Yeah, I think a lot comes to that because I'm always kind of believing kids from the experience that how I grew up, that my parents were really like they never told us what to do or anything. We mostly decide what we want to do and go which school we want to do, and they just gave us love and all this stuff, and then we just turned out to be okay. So we have good relations with parents, and so I believe in kid. I mean, both kids are really good, and just really don't have much like any worries. Yeah,
And I think you also, Kanai, have to be a lot more empathetic to Mark's fears. And I think that would help him a lot if he felt like you heard his fears instead of just like, oh, it's going to be fine. Because that's not going to be helpful for
definitely.
Mark, I
Yeah,
don't think.
I didn't think. Yeah, I didn't know that's come from fear. So I feel like, oh, because Mark always like to be better person, which better ourselves, like a better relationship
Constant
between.
improvement.
It's always constant improvement. Whereas, like, I'm like, you know, naturally our relationship, just from the experience, we evolve and it's gonna go to the right direction. That's how I feel. Like, I don't really, it just anything that he wants to, the improvements, it just really feels like burden for me.
So maybe, Kanai, you could work on telling yourself, even though Mark is constantly trying to improve himself and everyone around him, I'm still worthy and lovable.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, definitely. I agree.
You don't have to take that on. Like, and Mark, maybe you could also give yourself a little bit of a break and stop and look at where you are and how far you've come, and stop just looking for the next mountain peak to climb. And you're worthy and lovable even if you're not perfect.
Yeah, yeah, I know I'm not perfect. Yeah, I'm thinking of two things here. And one is really going to really emphasize how I can be anxious. So both our sons had jaundice when they were born, and I lost it when my oldest one had it. I really lost it.
He cried.
I I just really kind of lost it, and because I didn't know, and I guess it was from I was scared. That I'll tell you, I was scared. I was really scared for my son, and
Even
yeah,
second one.
it's funny now, but so small, so delicate. I just was like, it was overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed, and I didn't know that jaundice wasn't that big of a deal.
But second,
But I really lost it, and so that kind of crystallized, I think, one of my tendencies for being anxious, and So that's one thing, one thought, and a separate thought is that I think, I don't think I've ever really said this to you. I'm surprised, but you can criticize an idea, but not the person. And I've always think I've criticized your ideas and not you. And
Yeah,
I
I
and
take
I
it as
think
a
you
person.
take
Yeah,
my
yeah,
criticism of an
yeah,
idea
yeah.
as you as a person, and that really stops communication
I
and
agree.
shuts it down.
I agree. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's really hard for people who have attached their self-worth to what other people think of them or their ideas. And maybe that's a helpful thing for you to think about. Can I, like, even though Mark thinks I'm wrong about using plastic water bottles, I'm still worthy and lovable. And then you can actually think about the water bottles question without it being whether Mark thinks you are good or
A
not
bad
good.
mother, but you're not. You can never be a bad mother.
Yeah. But it's not like, it's more like water bottles and anything that's, it's just like, why is always Mark's way has to be adopted? Like, I can't, like, that's my resentment always, I guess.
Well, you can do some research, and
Well, nobody likes to be bossed around. Maybe that's part of it also. I
I
don't
don't
know if
boss
you're
you around,
strong-willed,
baby.
can I?
You
But
do it all the time.
I don't boss you
It's
around.
like
You
Mark's
never listen
rules.
to me.
well, you're probably both strong-willed. And so
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
you've got to
yes,
find,
yes.
yeah. Same with me and my husband. We're both really strong-willed and you have to find a way.
yeah. We have two sons, strong will, like we never be surprised, you
Hmm.
know.
So when you're strong-willed, part of that, like what I was just saying, is that you've attached the value of your ideas to your value as a person, and it's really hard to separate them out. And that's why the worthy and lovable statement is so helpful. Like, even though I think this is a great idea and Mark doesn't see the benefit of it, or the other way around, to be able to actually talk about it, you can't get shame triggered. So that's the anti-shame statement. Even though he doesn't see the value in my wonderful, amazing idea, I'm still worthy and lovable. But hopefully keep you, if you keep working on that, it'll keep you out of being triggered. And and can I, maybe when you're triggered, you shut down, which is what Mark said, or what you said, what you seem to agree. So some people, when they get triggered, they'll fight and yell and lash out. And then other people, when they're triggered, they just, so I think you're to try to stay present, you have to stay out of the shame by reminding yourself that it's not you that you're arguing about. It's just an idea that's separate from you.
Yeah, that's a really big idea for me. Really, really, probably hard to change, but I got the idea. Yeah.
All right, good. Well, you have some things to work on. Any closing thoughts or questions? Do you feel like we addressed your concerns were here?
I've discovered that I could be anxious.
Yeah.
Well, in this one area, the health and safety and future of your boys. And everybody operates from a place of fear in a certain extent, to a certain extent, but I think, yours maybe is a
It's like
uh
the father
bit
of
more.
the movie from Clues. The
Crohn's.
yeah, the you know,
You ever see the Crohn's?
Uh-uh.
It's about this caveman.
caveman.
It's really good. It's just DreamWorks, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Caveman, then the father just always worry about the safety of the family for everybody, so that whenever they just do something like a little bit adventurous, like the father comes and like say that you can do this, you can do that because it's not
Stay in
safe.
a cave.
Yeah.
Bubble wrap. Bubble stay everybody needs to be bubble wrapped. And I think it's sort of the big idea, I think, that we're sort of talking about here, is there's a woman who wrote a book called, the title of the book is, The Idea is the Gardener and the Carpenter, right? So that, and you've heard me talk about this before, like the gardener metaphor of parents is, they believe that there's the seed, and, child is a seed, and you just have to provide the light and the warmth and this, the right amount of water, etc. And they have everything within them that they need to grow up into good people, right? They know not to steal and hit. And then the carpenter is the much more common idea in our culture, is that you've got to teach them and build them, and they've got to, you've got to ride them a little bit when they do something wrong. And so I think, Mark, maybe you got to remember that really you're a gardener.
not the carpenter. I know you're good. You're really good. You could be a really good carpenter, but yeah,
Not appropriate in this
yeah,
situation,
this
right?
setting. All
So I
right.
think let's just remember that we're gardeners and that telling Nico for 5 days not to hit his brother is not going to do anything except make him feel bad about hitting his brother.
Agreed.
All right, well, we'll check in a couple of weeks and see how things have been.
All
That
right.
sounds great. Thank you,
Great.
Sarah.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
you.
Hi, Mark. Hi, Kanae. Welcome back to the podcast. So, how have things been since we last talked? Do you like to start or?
Sure, I can start.
All
Thanks.
right.
Can I? I think things have been good. I'd like to think I have showed some improvement in some of the areas that we talked about and I have been enlightened about and now have some more kind of focus on. So I think it's definitely positive. Can I?
Yes, okay. I mean, do you have any examples? Like, do you see anything different or?
Yeah, I mean, so one area that I was kind of came aware of that I guess most men don't like to admit is a fear uh, that I had, and which was causing me to feel some anxiety and would result in me acting kind of controlling in some ways. And so realizing that and really coming to grips with that fear, which again is really hard for me to say, but I think it is true that I did have a fear of how our sons might go on the wrong path. And so we definitely don't want it to happen, but it might be a fear that is a little bit overblown. And so I'm really kind of looking at our sons in a different lens now and letting things go a little bit more than I would in the past. And just really also trying to understand that fear for me, which I have done some thinking about. And I think a lot of that fear comes from the way I was brought up and the relationships I had with my parents and the kind of peer attachments I had with my friends and not so much close attachments I had with my family. So I think some of the wayward ways that I think our sons can go could be triggering some of that past memories that I have of kind of a not a perfect childhood that one would have.
You know, that all makes sense to me, Mark. Can you think of any, sorry to put you on the spot here, but can you think of any ways that that new knowledge has affected your parenting? Like examples?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would give me more patience and empathy with my kids. I might have been projecting some anxiety that I have in myself to them, which is unfair. And so, again, it's something I've been struggling with because you got to be honest with yourself, and again, I don't like to admit that I have a fear, but I really think that it's definitely the cause of some of my issues that I've had, and so glad that I'm aware of them now, and I'm glad I can correct them.
Honestly, it's so common for especially dads to have that fear. I mean, moms too, but I think for dads, let me put it a different way. All parents have that fear, but I think for dads it expresses itself in a little bit more of a aggressive way than it does for moms. Like moms, it for moms it tends to be a little bit more like, oh, like let me do that for you, like kinds of things. But for dads, it tends to be a little bit more like on the controlling side. But now you know how we talk about in the course that what would you do if you weren't afraid? Does that resonate more for you now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, the fear, afraid, those are kind of hard things I hate to kind of associate myself with,
Well, I
but
mean, just afraid of how, the future and how they're going to turn out, right?
yeah, I mean, I've also done some reading, which has really kind of helped me, and just looking at kids and the way they develop emotionally, and how to ensure that that positive kind of development happens, has really kind of helped me too as well. So I know a lot of it just kind of happens on its own as long as they have kind of self insecure attachment to connections, and so really kind of focusing on that, and just leave a lot of it up to kind of like human nature. It just kind of happens all by itself, and also, you don't have to be the perfect parent. I'm gonna get things wrong, and that's okay, and that's kind of helped me too as well, and I'm also been trying really hard to kind of pick up on cues that my kids may be expressing and really focusing on that and trying to catch those cues as quickly as possible and try to proactively try to stay in touch with those, remedy those, just be there for them.
That makes sense. Yeah. What about you, Kanai? Have you, first of all, like from, I want to hear about from the things that you brought to the session last time about some concerns that you had about, being listened to and heard. But also, have you noticed any changes in Mark with the new awareness he had about that
I
fear?
think for me, it's easier for me to explain to him why I think he is kind of wrong in a way that it's, oh, Mark, because you're doing this and because you're scared that Nico or Gino turn out to be this way, but I don't think he will. They will, and then he'll probably listen. He can definitely listen much better. I feel like it's much easier to talk to him in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree that looking at the past, I can agree that I've overreacted and maybe exaggerated some things that maybe didn't need to be exaggerated as much as I did. So it's been a learning.
Oh my gosh, the learning never stops, y'all. Like, really. Kanai, what have been some takeaways for you, and how have the past, I guess it's been about has it been almost 2 months since we talked? At least 6 weeks, I think.
I guess for me, I find it's a really big difference for me. The fact that I understand that's coming from fear for him, and also that my focus was on not taking it personally, whatever he said to me. So basically, before when he kind of could say things to me, like I thought he's criticizing on me, but now like I mean, there's one example. Like during the holiday season, there was 6 days kids didn't go to school, and I just saw him kind of saying, "Oh, why this house is so much mess?" or "Why is kids fighting?" And before I used to take it so personally, but like I just saw him just genuinely saying that because he doesn't know what to do, or he's genuinely really overwhelmed. And because I spend more time with kids, so I don't get overwhelmed that way. So I'm like, okay, he's just saying that because he's really overwhelmed and not really trying to tell me like it's my fault. And that I just switched it. And also like he told me like I start cleaning up because it was so much mess. I asked older one to help me and he said no. And I was like, okay, that's fine. But Mark made a big deal. Are you saying it's okay that he doesn't clean up? And I was like, yeah, it's okay. He want to play. And before I used to take it super personally, but like kind of I know now he's afraid that, oh, Nico think it's okay not to clean up. That's the fear he has. And I know that's not true. And as long as I know that's not true, I don't take it personally no more. And that's really big change for me. That's one time Mark yelled at me about I'm not emptying the water tank for the water froze. And then I was just quiet. And because before I used to kind of like
Uh,
really take it personally, but like I was just quiet, and I thought, okay, I knew he really doesn't like it, so I try my best not to do it, and I was just quiet, and then that's just it in my head. Like I don't take it personally, but like he knows like how I used to be, so he was like, "Are you okay, baby? Are you gonna cry?" I was like, "No, I'm not gonna cry," And then in my head, like if of course I'll try my best, but like it's going to happen again. Maybe I might get yelled at again, but then I just need to be quiet, and for 5 seconds the storm go away. So I'm like, that's how I am now. So
That's amazing. If anyone listening could see me, I have the biggest smile on my face right now. Like, that's huge. Like, to be able to take that away, that is huge, Kenai. Like, really, really big. And I honestly, I can't remember if this is something we specifically talked about last time, but it's like you are able to now. I know you were already that way with your boys, in terms of not taking it personally and recognizing that they're doing the best they can. But it's like you've extended that to Mark now.
yeah, exactly. I just felt like also before, like, exactly, because now I know that like I don't take it personally when these days my older one like to say, I wish I have a different mom, but like it just really doesn't affect me. But it's kind of got similar level towards Mark. Today he also got tensed up about, oh, Nico cannot talk to you like that because we had to let him know we are in charge. And Mark was afraid that the older one is like alpha kid, and the older one was telling me, Mommy, why didn't you do this for me? Like you should do it for me or something like that. And then Mark was like really got afraid that, oh, this is a tendency for alpha kids. We got to do something. And it's like, okay, I understand. And then I used to get much more depressed, like, oh, why he's always acting like this. But now I kind of understand, like, he has to kind of, have a process in him. And like, he's also serious about kids. So that's really good thing. So I guess like don't take it personally. Also, before I used to kind of change. I mean, I when I'm doing something, I kind of like don't like to be criticized from him.
Nobody
So like
does.
I'm just really like not liking to like I was like, oh, I wish he doesn't see me doing it, or I don't like to get caught. But like now I just like it's okay, like because one day Nico didn't eat dinner, but like he ate 2 donuts instead. I'm just like today there was some circumstances, so it's okay, just skipping dinner. Even Mark find out like I know I'm okay, you know.
It sounds like it sounds like that idea of not taking it personally has given you a lot more confidence.
Yeah, definitely it is.
That's amazing. And just as a side note, Mark, did you see the newsletter last week about it's okay if kids say no to helping?
Yeah,
I missed
yeah,
it. I think Kanai
yeah.
did. Yeah.
Well, Kanai, you got to send it to him. But that was what the newsletter was like.
I told him already that time, like right after he made a big deal, like, are you saying that's okay? And I said okay. And then he started taking shower, and I was cleaning, and then Nico started cleaning with me. So I told Mark about it already. That Nico sometimes just in the night, like when I'm not tired, I clean up because I know he doesn't like the mess, and Nico always help me. So he knows that, but it just like on the moment he still kind of get tensed up.
Yeah. Well, it's a work of a lifetime to undo, and patterns of a not work of life patterns of a lifetime to undo, right? But yeah, it's the modeling graciousness when we have to remember that if a child refuses to help when we've asked them to help, and you could force a child to help, but that's not going to make them a helpful person in the long run.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. A bit of a side note. Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing your experiences. And I know it's going to be so helpful for so many parents who are listening, because I think that a lot of the patterns that you two shared with us are patterns that a lot of parents have. So really, and amazing that you were able to make such progress on them, and keep it up.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thanks for listening to this week's episode. I hope you found this conversation insightful and exactly what you needed in this moment. Be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Remember that I'm rooting for you. I see you out there showing up for your kids and doing the best you can. Sending hugs over the airwaves today. Hang in there. You've got this.